topic is secondary or peripheral lymphoidal organs. So we have discussed about the primary lymphoidal organs and now we are going to discuss about the secondary or peripheral lymphoidal organs. In secondary or peripheral lymphoidal organs, antigen is localized so that it can be effectively exposed to mature lymphocytes. So the antigen was localized. You are finding the antigen. So the antigen was found out, that is localized and it was exposed to the lymphocytes, to the mature lymphocytes. The best examples of secondary or peripheral lymphoidal organs are lymph nodes, appendix, Peyer's patches of gastrointestinal tract, tonsils, adenoids, spleen, MALT, mucus associated lymphoidal tissue, GALT, gut associated lymphoidal tissue, BALT, bronchus or that is bronchial or trachea associated lymphoidal tissue. So first the Peyer's patches. So the Peyer's patches are the oval shaped areas of thickened tissue that are embedded in the mucus secreting lining of the small intestine of humans and other vertebrate animals. So the Peyer's patches contain a variety of immune cells including macrophages, dendritic cells, T cells and B cells. So the Peyer's patches, where it is seen in the small intestine in the mucus lining layer, and it is thickened tissue, oval shaped thickened tissue. Okay, and this Peyer's patches contain, that is immune cells like macrophages, dendritic cells, T cells and B cells. So Peyer's patches means you have to, if they ask about the Peyer's patches, write a note on. So you have to think about the shape. The shape is oval and the thickened tissue. The tissue is thickened, and where it is seen in the mucus secreting lining of small intestine. And the Peyer's patches has the immune cells like macrophages, dendritic cells, T cells and B cells. Next, tonsils. So the tonsils are palatine tonsils. So they are a pair of soft tissue masses located at the back of the throat, that is the pharynx. So the tonsils are the part of the lymphatic system which helps to fight infections. They stop invading the germs including bacteria and viruses. So the tonsils are seen at the throat region, that to the back of the throat, that is back of the pharynx. You can see the palatine tonsils, and it also acting as a part of the immune system, that is lymphatic system. Lymphatic system itself is going to fight against the pathogen, that is the infections. So infections, and this tonsils prevents the germs entering into the body, that is like bacteria and viruses. So the bacteria and viruses, germs, that the bacteria and viruses will be stopped there in the tonsil region, that is in the neck region, by creating infection. So it is fighting against bacteria and viruses. Spleen. The secondary lymphoidal organ located in the upper part of the abdominal cavity close to the diaphragm. The spleen contains V and T cells. It brings humoral and cell-mediated immunity. So the spleen is also one of the secondary lymphoidal organ. Where it is present? It is seen in the upper part of the abdominal cavity. So upper part of the abdominal cavity to the diaphragm region, the spleen is present. And the spleen has B and T cells. So these cells only brings the humoral or cell-mediated immunity. So we have discussed about the cell-mediated and humoral immunity in previous video. If you want, you can go and watch it. Adenoids. So adenoids are the glands located in the roof of the mouth behind the soft palate where the nose connects to the throat. The adenoids produce antibodies that help to fight infection. Typically, the adenoids shrink during adolescence and may disappear by adulthood. So, adenoids means where it is located? In the roof of the mouth, that too behind the soft palate, where the nose is connected to the throat. This is the located part of the adenoids. So, adenoids also produces antibody to fight against the infections. So, adenoids will be shrunken in adolescent stage, it is shrunken, and in adulthood the adenoids will be disappeared. Next we move on to the lymph node. So, the lymph node is a small bean-shaped structure and is a part of the body immune system. So, you can see here it is a bean-shaped structure and it acts as a part of immune system. And it is the first one to encounter the antigen that enters the tissue spaces. So, the lymph nodes will encounter the antigen in between the tissues, that is in the space provided in between the tissues, it encountered the antigen. Okay. So, the lymph nodes filter and trap the substance that travel through the lymphatic fluids. So, the antigens are trapped and filtered in the lymphatic fluids itself. So, they are packed tightly with white blood cells, namely lymphocytes and macrophages. So, the lymph node is tightly packed with WBC cells like lymphocytes and macrophages. And there are hundreds of lymph nodes throughout our body. So, that is hundreds of lymph nodes is seen in our body. Throughout our body, the lymph nodes are distributed. Okay, this is the structure of the lymph node. You can see the afferent lymphatic vessel here, and you can see the way through it, and you can see the synostosis and the mantle zone, that is mantle zone, not mental, mantle zone. And here you can see a follicle and the cortex, paracortex and medullary cords. Okay, medullary cords, and this is the efferent lymphatic vessels. Okay. So, they are connected to one another by lymph vessels. So, there are afferent and efferent, that is you can see here, no. So, they are connected, the lymph nodes are connected with the vessels, that is efferent lymphatic vessel and efferent lymphatic vessels. Through the vessels, they are connected one another. The lymph is clear, transparent, colorless, mobile and extracellular fluid and fluid connective tissue. So, the fluid is clear, transparent itself, there is no color, and it is moving along with the blood, it is moving, and it is also a connective tissue. As the lymph circulates through the lymph nodes, the particular antigen brought in by the lymph will be trapped by the phagocytic cells, follicular and interdigiting dendritic cells. So, when the fluid is passing through the lymph nodes traps the antigen. So, the antigen was trapped by the cells, that is phagocytic cells, which will eat the cells, and there are some follicular cells also and interdigiting dendritic cells also. So, they are acting as an immune system here. So, they trap the antigen. So, the lymph node has 3 zones that we have discussed now. Here you can see the cortex, paracortex and medullary cords. So, these are the 3 zones. Okay. So, that only they had given here. Cortex, paracortex and medulla. The outermost layer of the lymph node is called cortex. So, which consists of B lymphocytes, macrophages and follicular dendritic cells. So, that is the outermost layer, the cortex. Here you can see the outermost layer of the lymph node is called cortex. And this cortex contains B cells, that is B lymphocytes, macrophages and follicular dendritic cells. So, the paracortex, that is where it is present? It is present below the cortex. So, that is called paracortex. So, paracortex and it is richly populated with T lymphocytes. So, more number of lymphocytes, that is T lymphocytes, is seen here, and it is also interdigiting with the dendritic cells. So, paracortex zone is seen below the cortex zone, and this zone you have richly you can see the T lymphocytes with interdigiting dendritic cells. And the innermost zone, that is the innermost zone, is the medullary cords or medulla. So, which is sparsely populated here, very less, that is they are sparsely populated lymphocytes, but many of them are plasma cells. So, in lymphocytes in this region, most of the plasma cells are seen which actively secreted antibody molecules. So, the innermost zone is called medulla, and here the lymphocytes are sparsely populated, so very less in number, but most of them are plasma cells and they secretes antibody molecules. As the lymph enters, it slowly percolates through the cortex, paracortex and medulla, giving sufficient chance for the phagocytic cells and dendritic cells to trap the antigen brought by the lymph. So, the lymph fluid enters into the lymph node, where inside that is the three layers, no? The cortex, paracortex and medulla. So, that time what cells are there? Phagocytic cells are there and dendritic cells are there. So, they will trap the antigen which was brought by the lymph. So, the lymph leaving a node carries enriched antibodies secreted by the medullary plasma cells against the antigen that enter the lymph node. So, the lymph leaves the node. Now, the lymph is leaved, that is the lymph fluid passes from the lymph. So, it leaves the lymph node, that is from the lymph node the lymph is leaved. Okay, there in the lymph node now it has the antibodies. So, and which was the antibodies was secreted by whom? Medullary plasma cells. So, against the antibodies that enter the lymph node. So, they produces the medullary plasma cells produces antibodies. So, these antibodies will work against the antigens. Sometimes visible swelling of lymph nodes occurs due to the active immune responses and increased concentration of lymphocytes. You can see some of the lymph nodes will be seen outside, that is in the body. When you can see in the tonsil region, you have seen the lymph nodes will be enlarges and you cannot able to turn your neck also. That is due to the response, that is immune response and more concentration of lymphocytes. That time you will get fever also. The infection was seen in your body. So, the lymphocytes are working effectively. So, the swollen lymph nodes may signal an infection. Okay. So, what I say, no, that one. So, it causes severe infection also. So, there are several groups of lymph nodes. The most frequently enlarged lymph nodes are found in the neck region. So, they are seen in the neck region and even under the chin and in the armpits and in the groin. So, these are the regions the lymph nodes are present. So, if you have any infection in the ear region or in the hand, that is the ankle pit region, that is it will create the infection and the inflammation. It will create the inflammation, and this shows the immune system is working against the antigen. Due to that only you got the lymph node enlargements. MALT, mucosa associated lymphoidal tissue. So, MALT, so is a diffused system of small concentration of lymphoidal tissue in the alimentary canal, respiratory, urinogenital tracts. So, MALT is populated by lymphocytes such as T and B cells as well as plasma cells and macrophages, each of which is well situated to encounter antigen passing through the mucosal epithelial, and it is also possesses IgA antibodies. So, the mucosa, that is the MALT, where it is seen in the alimentary tract, respiratory tract, urinogenital tract, which produces the mucus, and it is a little in lymphoidal tissue also. So it has a small concentration of lymphoidal tissue also, because it has lymphocytes, that is T and B cells are present in the plasma cell and macrophages. So to encounter the antigen, that is the passing through the mucous region, there it can be encountered the antigen, and it has IgA antibodies too. GALT, that is gut associated lymphoidal tissue. Okay, so but this gut associated tissue, lymphoidal tissue, it is an component of mucus associated lymphoidal tissue, and it also works as an immune system to protect the body from the invasion in the gut. So the antigens has not to enter into the gut. If it enter, it has to work. So it is a part of MALT. Okay, bronchus associated lymphoidal tissue, BALT. So it is also a component of MALT only. It also is made up of lymphoidal tissue that is seen in the tonsils, lymph node, lymph follicles is found. It is in respiratory mucosa from the nasal cavity to the lungs. Okay, it is also a part of mucus, that is MALT only, but it is seen in the respiratory mucosa and nasal cavities to the lungs. Okay, that region it contains called as BALT, because there the lymphoidal tissue will works. Hope you understand the topic. If you have any doubts, post your doubts in the comment box. If you want to watch the video in Tamil, I had given the link in the description box. You can go and watch it. Give a thumbs up, share and subscribe to Science Easy Tech channel.